We'll count down the top 5 final second plays in Arizona history later. And Saquon Barkley looking good in his return from injury. What that means for quarterback Daniel Jones of the Giants ahead on this edition of NFL Live. And welcome into the show. It is NFL Live alongside left to right Ryan Clark, Booger McFarland, and Dan Graziano. I am Field Yates, and you may have heard Aaron Rodgers no-showed for the Packers offseason, which also included skipping a mandatory minicamp to be fined around $90,000. His star receiver weighed in on the reigning MVP as Davante Adams offered his perspective on Aaron Rodgers' absence. Here's what Adams said to Fox News. Quote, "I'll be there and I'll be ready to rock. Hopefully Aaron will be there as well, and if he's not, we're going to get going. Like I said in the press recently, I back him and I support him whatever he does. It's just kind of how we get down. We've always had each other's back since I first got here. Like I said, praying that he comes back, but if not, I'll be there and I'll be working." Lots to unpack there, and Graz, we'll start with you. What did Davante Adams' comments mean to you?
Well, I think they're just articulating sort of what the Packers' position has been throughout this. I think when the news broke on draft day, a lot of people thought, oh, well, this will lead to the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers, and it still might, but currently the Packers don't intend to do that. They don't want to do that, and they're telling Aaron Rodgers effectively, if you want to play this year, it'll be for us. If you don't, then sit home, we'll collect some of the money we owe you, and we'll go forward with what we have. So I think it's Davante Adams kind of saying what has been said in the Packers building for a while now, just sort of saying it out loud to a general public that may not have had its mind around the idea just yet. Aaron Rodgers could be a Packer this year, but it may not be on the field for them if that is in fact his choice.
RC, this got real for me on the day of the draft, as Graz referenced when it all started, but I think it gets more real for Packers fans when the games begin. Are you buying the idea that Aaron Rodgers could actually skip regular season games?
I'll take he is that petty for 500, Field. Hell yeah, Aaron Rodgers can stay home. Listen, this is not like this is over a contract dispute or he doesn't feel like he's been paid what he's supposed to make. He gets the money. He's gotten the deals. He's won the games. He's been to NFC championships. This is personal. And because it's personal, Aaron Rodgers can internalize that. Aaron Rodgers can say, you know what? I'm not going to make these executives look good. The GM Brian Gutekunst, you will not win Executive of the Year because I win another MVP and we get a Super Bowl. I'd rather not play than let you get any recognition for the job you've done in Green Bay because I don't like you. Not I don't like the job you've done. Not I don't think you're good at your job. Not I don't think you care about the Green Bay Packers. I don't like you. Therefore, this is about my feelings. And as long as my feelings are this, I probably won't be playing for the Green Bay Packers.
All right, let's see here. Aaron Rodgers, money from the Packers, $240 million. Okay, so that answers the question I need right there. He's made $240 million from the Packers. So what does that tell me? It's really, really simple. He can afford to give a little money back. He can afford to miss a little time. So the point being, is Aaron Rodgers going to show up? If Aaron Rodgers is hell-bent on this is quote-unquote, he's so petty that he doesn't want to come in and fix the relationship between he and the front office, he's not showing up. Oftentimes, think about this, Field. Oftentimes, we're forced to do things in life because financially we have to or we need to, or we are bound by our contract and it's going to force us to do it from some point of monetary standpoint. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do any of that. When he's earned $240 million, that gives him choices. And you're only as loyal as the choices you have. And right now, guess what? His loyalty is somewhere in Hawaii with his fiance. They're climbing up and down mountains, and he's not thinking about the Green Bay Packers. And let me tell y'all this. Everybody made a big deal about Aaron Rodgers renewing his golf membership at Green Bay Country Club. As somebody, and I'm going to toot my own horn, that belongs to 3 country clubs,
he said
2 of them I hadn't been to in 2 years. So you're always going to renew the golf membership regardless of whether you've been there or not.
Oh, look at me. I play golf. I live in Tampa. I can go to all these places and swing the clubs. Oh, my goodness.
I'll be
I
honest
can
with you.
afford 3 country club memberships.
Yeah, it's a tough life that Booger leads.
I'm just telling you what Aaron Rodgers does. Hey, Aaron Rodgers renewed the membership. That's what golfers do. I'm sorry, you two don't play golf. You guys do other things. Hey, hit me up. I'll give you some lessons.
I do play golf.
The amazing part is, boy, you got 3 country club memberships. Never invited me to any of them, not even a once. We can discuss that off the air. Hey, back to football, because no quarterback-receiver duo has been more successful than Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams over the past 5 seasons. The two have combined for 59 touchdowns, including the playoffs, by far the most in the NFL since the start of 2016. That includes 20 just last year, 18 in the regular season, 2 more in the playoffs. Now, Davante Adams has 1 year left on his current deal. RC, back to you. Should Davante Adams want to do an extension with Green Bay if there's a chance Aaron Rodgers isn't there?
Hey, listen, when I was growing up, there was this commercial, and they would sell this record, and I used to always want my family to buy it. I asked my dad, could he buy it? Because they had a song on there by the Williams brothers, and it said, sweep around your own front door. That's what Davante Adams needs to be worried about. You heard what Booger said earlier. He said, let me check Aaron Rodgers' money, $240 million. You know who hasn't made $240 million? Davante Adams. And right now, he is thought of as, if not the best, one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in this league, and he needs to be paid top dollar. Now, I know the Packers are strapped, but if the Packers back up that Brinks truck to his front door, I don't care if it's Jordan Love playing quarterback, Courtney Love playing quarterback, or Love and the Isley brothers playing quarterback. You sign that deal and you get your money. It's not about who's going to be throwing you the football when you're making that level of money, because nothing to say that if you wait to free agency, you won't be franchise tagged or you won't end up playing with a quarterback that's worse than Jordan Love. If they do right by Davante as far as the numbers, he should sign that deal in Green Bay and be a Packer for life.
One of our fellow co-workers said this about NFL wide receivers. They're about 2 things, themselves and their money. So you're absolutely right. If they offer him a new contract, he's going to take the contract regardless. Chris Carter said that. Chris Carter told us that receivers are all about numbers, themselves, and money. So Davante Adams, I think he's the best receiver in football, either him or DeAndre Hopkins, whichever flavor of the month you want. You can take either one. They're right there together. But I think at the end of the day, he's got to get his money. He hadn't been paid a ton of money. He's up for a new deal. And if they offer him a contract to make him the highest paid receiver in football, it will behoove him to go ahead and sign that deal.
Yeah, look, the contract they gave him a few years ago was good. It was competitive at the top of the market, but the market has advanced past it. He's making $13.25 million this year. Obviously, that's way under, it's half of DeAndre Hopkins' average salary, so he'd like to be paid more. He'd like a new contract. The Packers want to give him one. They have a complicated situation. They're right up against this year's salary cap. They're projected to be about $35 million over next year's salary cap. They have Jair Alexander to think about extending as well, so they have some issues, but they could get Davante Adams extended on a deal that gives them cost certainty in the next couple of years, and there are some ways for them to clear cap room next year, including moving on from Aaron Rodgers, which he may be doing anyway ahead of their timetable. So I would expect this negotiation to happen, to pick up during this portion of the offseason, and I think there's a decent chance that it gets done, whether Aaron Rodgers shows up or not.
I'm thinking 4 years, $110 million sounds about right for a guy like Davante Adams. We're just getting started here on NFL Live, by the way. Remember last week, Tua Tagovailoa had a rough day, minicamp? Is this a bad sign of things to come? And why Booger thinks we should pump the brakes on judging Tua's play. And later, the NBA gave us a crazy ending in Arizona last night. 5 interceptions in one practice, albeit in the pouring rain. For Tua and the Dolphins, it was about being aggressive and learning from those mistakes. Here's what he and his head coach, Brian Flores, had to say about the practice record.
Obviously you want to be smart, but if there's a time to make mistakes, now's the time to make mistakes. And we're just trying to see what we can fit in the hole, what we can throw within coverages, come in the film room, and then learn from it.
I don't think Tua's going into a shell. I mean, I think, I tell him to continue being aggressive. Really the conversations are a lot of what we've already talked about here. It's, use this time to, practice pushing the ball downfield. Then we'll make the adjustments. We'll make the corrections. We'll go at it again the next day. I think that's the normal progression of how this goes. My conversations with him are, hey, we'll look at it, we'll make the corrections, and we'll get better and come out here and do it tomorrow.
All right, Graz, what more can you add about the Dolphins' plans for Tua in minicamp last week and going forward as well?
Yeah, Tua threw 290 passes last year. The longest of those gained 35 yards. So pushing it downfield more aggressively is something the Dolphins definitely want him to work on this offseason. And as you heard Brian Flores explain just there, the minicamp, the OTAs, those are the opportunities to work on those things. It reminded me of my baseball days covering baseball when a veteran pitcher would get lit up in spring training and he would explain that he was trying out a new pitch, right, that maybe he wouldn't even use during the regular season. So I think Tua was probably taking some chances in that practice that the Dolphins wouldn't want him to take, and he might not want to take during the game, but as he explained, trying to figure out what he can and can't do on those kinds of throws. And I think going forward, they'll apply those lessons throughout training camp and the preseason and going into the season.
Booger, thanks to players like Kyler Murray 2 years ago and Justin Herbert this past year, the clock is sped up for these young quarterbacks. But how would you evaluate Tua Tagovailoa this offseason?
Well, first of all, I mean, he's only started 9 games. He hadn't even started a full 16 games, so we really can't judge him like a normal rookie and say he started 1 year. I'm going to judge him based on that. I'm really not going to make a decision on this kid until I've seen at least 16 starts, until I've seen him go through a full offseason, until I've seen him know that he can go out, make mistakes, and come back and correct them, and he's still going to be the starting quarterback. Let's not forget, last year he was pulled in and out of the lineup. And think about this. In 9 games that he started, he's thrown more touchdown passes than Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. Let that sink in. So we're so quick to judge this young quarterback. We're so quick to all of a sudden make a decision whether or not he can start. He has only started 9 games. Let's pump the brakes, give him an offseason. I'm not concerned about anything that happens at practice. As somebody who hated the practice and who was always looking at the clock, trying to figure out when we was going to get out, especially in the offseason, I'm really not concerned about practice. I'll judge Tua Tagovailoa once we get to the month of September and we start putting up stats that count, because right now, I had like 50 sacks in OTAs, but you know how many of those transferred to the regular season?
I mean, enough to buy a 3 country club membership.
0.
You did something right. Yeah, so can't be all that bad.
0.
Hey, RC, back to the practice thoughts here. What are your thoughts on the aggressive approach while at practice by the Dolphins for Tua?
I mean, I think that's the way you have to approach it. You have to see what you can do at practice. I know there were a lot of practices during training camp where Troy and I say, you know what, we're going to play everything from the line of scrimmage, or we'll play everything from 5 yards, and you play in the middle of the field. You're getting to the half. You're trying to do all of these different things to see what you can do, to see what type of disguises you can make, see what type of chances you can take. And that's what Tua Tagovailoa was doing. They want him to push the ball down the field. They want him to read coverage as he's taking his drop. Those are things that he is practicing against what is a very good Miami Dolphins defense, even if Xavier Howard isn't out there. And so Tua Tagovailoa needs to do these things, needs to go get an opportunity to watch the film and get better. He was a guy I loved at Alabama, and we saw some flashes of those things. If he can get back to that type of confidence level and being coached in that way, empowered in that way, we can see great things from him. So let's not put too much on one practice that happened in June.
And to your point, RC, it's not just about Tua, it's about the surroundings, which include, as we've talked about, the improved wide receiver group, Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, the aforementioned player, and some other nice pieces around him for 2021. Go ahead, RC.
And Phil, one more thing is this. I don't have a problem with Tua throwing 5 interceptions at practice, but if he was watching the clock, trying to get out of practice to go to one of the 3 country club membership he had, like Booger, then I'd have an issue.
Booger, man, you've opened up Pandora's box here at NFL Live. We'll stick to football for the most part, we promise. And remember at the beginning of the offseason, it's kind of rocky for Seattle. The rumors about Russell Wilson and having a list of teams that he would be open to a trade to. Yeah, his agent gave those to Adam Schefter, but Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson now have high hopes for one of their newest acquisitions.
Oh, I think you're going to be really excited to see Gerald Everett. This is I think the fanciest, sweetest looking receiver tight end mix that we've had. He's like a wide receiver. He's got terrific after the catch run ability, really aggressive, and he's a good blocker too. And he knows the system inside and out. But Gerald is a really unique player, and he should catch a lot of balls and be right in the middle of the action.
I got that one filed away from Pete Carroll about Gerald Everett. Let's get to some quick reads now. And Booger, who do you have as a breakout player with a new team in 2021?
Well, Field, I'm going to look at Corey Davis, moving over from Tennessee. Now he's going to the New York Jets. It's going to be a run-centric offense for Mike LaFleur and Zach Wilson, which means he's going to get a lot of single high one-on-one coverage on the outside. I think Corey Davis, who one time people thought was going to be a bust, I think now he has a chance to prove he can be a legitimate number one receiver. Look for Corey Davis to thrive in that Mike LaFleur offense.
Phil, I'm going to go with John Johnson, the free agent safety, the Cleveland Browns signed. I know the Browns wanted to overhaul their defense this offseason, and Johnson's a player about whom they are extremely excited as a leader who can kind of, glue everything together on the back end. They made a lot of additions to that defense. Johnson, they believe, will be the key to unlocking it all.
I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry for the New England Patriots. Listen, when the New England Patriots were very good in the late 2010s, it was because they went 12 personnel. They had two tight ends that could stretch you and pressure you in different ways. You have that exact thing now, and so whether it's Cam Newton or a young Mac Jones trying to learn this offense or run this offense, inside the numbers is where these guys will be, and they'll make big plays all season.
Yeah, to your point, RC, what's old could be new again is the Patriots last year had the lowest percentage of plays with two tight ends on the field in 2020. We got to figure a massive change takes place this year because the Patriots paid those guys accordingly. Hey, Saquon Barkley, remember him? He appears to be back to his old form, but how will his return be? That was good. There's no doubt, you can see it right now as he's going back and forth in the sand, looking in his typical excellent shape, and certainly a sight for sore eyes, especially amongst Giants fans. Another person who's very excited to have Saquon back is undoubtedly Daniel Jones, who would like to have a healthy Saquon for the entire season this year. In 11 games with Barkley in his career, Jones has 23 touchdown passes and is averaging nearly 270 passing yards per game. In 15 games without Saquon, the Giants quarterback has more interceptions than touchdowns. Yikes. All right, so Graz, we'll start with you. What's the timeline on Saquon's return to the football field?
Phil, the Giants have consistently said they're taking it slow this offseason with Saquon Barkley. They're not going to rush him back from his injury just so they can say he was ready in time for training camp or even for week one if that is what it takes. I think he'll be ready to go by the time the regular season starts, but the Giants are not going to push it. They want him back at full strength when he is back. Now, I hear some things sometimes, and I wonder if they're just trying to sort of lower expectations and maybe sort of have him sneak up on folks. I expect Saquon Barkley to play early in the season and be back at full strength, probably week one, although at this point the Giants would definitely tell you that's not a goal that they have in mind. They just want to do right by him and his body.
And Saquon, of course, now eligible for an extension as well. Booger, we just give you the numbers, but how much, when you watch the tape, does Saquon help Daniel Jones, who's entering a pivotal third year?
First of all, I want to comment on the Instagram video. Have we not learned anything by all these Instagram models with all these videos? And then you might see one of them in person and they don't look anything like, are we still judging athletes on the Instagram? I don't know. That's just me.
Filter on it. It's not a filter.
Listen, all I'm saying is, listen, I am not going to judge anybody by an Instagram workout. RC, you and I are old as dirt, and we can go put a fire Instagram video, but nobody's going to doubt that you and I can get back out there and play again. Now, Phil, let me be professional and ease my way back to your question. Listen, hey, Daniel Jones, what he needs to do, he needs to not turn the football over. I get it. Saquon Barkley coming back, the running game. They got Galladay, you got Slayton, you got Evan Ingram. They got a lot of weapons. What they're trying to do is minimize the excuses for Daniel Jones. His biggest thing, he needs to not turn the football over and show progression in the passing game. If he can do that, then we can properly evaluate Daniel Jones. And I got a feeling that the conversation is going to change. It's not about who's playing running back. It's not about the wide receivers. It's about Daniel Jones taking the next step that all great quarterbacks do. They value the football. They don't turn it over, because when you touch the ball every single play, you cannot give it away at the rate that he's given it away over the last few years. You just can't do it.
Booger, whether he gives it away or not, we could properly evaluate him. Here it goes. If Daniel Jones turns the ball over like he's turned the ball over in his first couple of years in New York, he should no longer be the quarterback of the New York Giants. See? Bam. Easy. He turned it over, and I was still able to properly evaluate him because that's where Daniel Jones is. Daniel Jones is where Sam Darnold was last year for the Jets. We have to figure out if this guy is our quarterback of the future. Can we invest in that fifth-year option because we know that he will be a part of our team. He will be the leader of our offense. And Daniel Jones hasn't shown me that he can do that. So you know what we say? We'll get Kyle Rudolph. We'll get Kenny Galladay. We'll get Saquon Barkley healthy with filters and different sound effects and different view effects on his Instagram video so Booger can think that he can still come back and play. We'll get all these things for you, Daniel. Now you got to go play ball. He can be properly evaluated. You know why? Because they have surrounded him with skilled players on the outside, Booger. And so if he comes out and he plays like he's played before, then he is gone. He is gone. Dave Gettleman's gone. Everybody's gone. And you have to start over and start from scratch if you're the New York Giants.
Here's how you change the narrative on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, get you a fire producer, get you an Instagram video, have Peyton Manning in the background, like shooting over your right shoulder. As a matter of fact, RC, you got a production company. Why don't you shoot Daniel Jones a fire video, Peyton Manning in the background, he's throwing the football, and we're going to change the whole narrative before he ever play a game. How about that?
There we go. I like it. We are finding ways
to make.
That's right, making Daniel Jones better through social media and also on the field as well. But back to Saquon Barkley, because Saquon is not the only notable player 25 years or younger returning from an injury this season. Remember, Christian McCaffrey was limited to just 3 games last year. Both an ankle and shoulder injury bothered him. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow had his rookie season cut short with a torn ACL and MCL, plus Nick Bosa. He tore his ACL, not to mention his brother's teammate, Chargers All-Pro safety Derwin James, is coming back from a torn meniscus and has played just 5 games in the last 2 seasons. Booger, as you look at these guys, which do you see making the biggest impact in his return?
Well, I think it's got to be Nick Bosa. You know, we all focus on Aaron Donald. He's the best defensive lineman in football, maybe one of the best in the history that we've ever seen. But from a defensive end standpoint, there's nobody that plays run and pass and that's fundamentally sound at rushing the passer than Nick Bosa. If he comes back and he stays healthy, he will lead the NFL in sacks and most likely be the defensive player of the year.
Listen, Booger went with the rusher, and I'm going to go with the safety, Derwin James of the Chargers. This is a dude that burst onto the scene as a rookie, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, over 100 tackles, 3 interceptions. He can rush the passer. He's a guy that can play on the back end, and he's a flat-out dog and great tackler. If Derwin James is healthy, he's the top talent at the safety position. You got Keenan Allen burning everybody in training camp. Derwin James said, "Hey, Key, I need you." He's that kind of talent. Can't wait to watch him play this year.
I'm going to go with Joe Burrow, the second-year quarterback in Cincinnati. And here is a prediction for Booger to write down on the back of this morning's scorecard. If Joe Burrow is healthy enough to play Week 1, as they expect him to be, I predict that he will lead the league in passing yards in 2021. With that offense, adding Jamar Chase, getting a healthy Joe Mixon back, improvements hopefully on the offensive line, I think he's set up.
And as we know, Dan, last year, volume was certainly on his side with a bad defense and a banged up running game. He threw it a ton. All right, from Joe Burrow to another star who is now on a new team. Julio Jones plays for Tennessee Titans, but Falcons head coach Arthur Smith says both teams made out well in the trade. Do our guys see the Falcons as winners in this deal? Don't miss a take next year on NFL Live. That both sides did pretty well in this major transaction.
And the way everything worked out, we feel pretty good. I mean, I think it's pretty much well documented now that we feel like it was a win-win, you know, with the salary cap and Julio going to Tennessee and us right now being able to solve our short-term issue with the cap. So, and we still got some other moves, you know, down the line you're going to have to address. But feel really good about where we're at right now and going into the summer.
RC, I'll start with you. Do you believe that this really was a win-win trade?
Nope. Arthur Smith is doing what you got to do. Sometimes when you lose things, you got to say, you know what? I'm probably better off without it. But he is lying to himself. And he may be thinking, you know what? Julio's been banged up a little bit. He's been a little bit hurt. If Julio Jones is almost Julio Jones and can play in the majority of the games last year, you lost. Period. You got 2 seconds and like a fourth or something crazy like that. That doesn't. I mean, the second and 2/4. Unless the second is DK Metcalf or AJ Brown, which they probably aren't because they play on other teams in the NFL and are stars already. You got jobbed. You did not get enough for Julio Jones. You did not get enough for the type of playmaker he is. You did not get enough for the attention that he will attract. You did not get enough for the confidence he gives a quarterback. Julio Jones can still be a star in this league. He could still produce, and if anything, he can be a part of making your offense better. Arthur Smith is an offensive coach, and he knows good and dang well this was not a win-win.
You know, sometimes two things can be true, RC, and everything you said is 100% true about Julio Jones and who he is and his impact. But here's the question that I would ask you, and it's a rhetorical question, because I don't want you taking up any of my time right now. Are the Atlanta Falcons ready to win right now? Are the Atlanta Falcons ready to win? I would say no. So what good does it do for them to have Julio Jones and have an explosive offense when their defense is poo-poo? So Arthur Smith is probably saying, okay, who do we have that's expendable? We're bringing in Kyle Pitts. We're bringing in another offensive weapon. We have Calvin Ridley. We're bringing back Matt Ryan. We can get rid of something for Julio Jones and maybe help us in other places as we rebuild this defense. And so now it can be a win for the Atlanta Falcons. Now flip it over for the Tennessee Titans. They need an impact player on the outside. They need somebody that when they line up and run the football downhill with Derrick Henry can beat one-on-one coverage and make the plays because they are ready to win now. That defense is capable. The offense, the running game, Ryan Tannehill. So it's a win for the Titans. So RC, I know you and I both went to LSU. Both of us attended classes regularly. And you know, like I know, sometimes two things can be true. And I think this is that situation. This is a win for the Falcons and a win for the Titans.
Hey, man, listen, two things can be true, but not those two things, Booger. Listen, that is such the loser mentality of building a roster. Hey, guys, we suck. We ain't going to win no Super Bowl anyway, so let's get rid of our best player. I just don't agree that what you got for Julio was the type of compensation a guy like Julio should be worth to an organization. And so that is my big thing. If you give up Julio and you get something in between what it was to get DeAndre Hopkins and what it was to get Stephon Diggs, then I understand that. But to give him away for that is just saying we are cap strapped. We don't think we're very good, so we might as well lose for real and not even be close.
Well, to your point, it's not about thinking we're not very good. They aren't very good defensively. Their defense is terrible. Sometimes you have to be honest with yourself. You know, in the morning when you wake up and you brushing your teeth and washing your face, you got to look in the mirror and you got to be honest with the person you see. So I like the fact that Arthur Smith is looking in the mirror and say, you know what? We're not ready to win right now, so let's capitalize and move on for another day.
This conversation is going in directions they wasn't expecting it to, dropping poo-poo and LSU class attendance and grass. I'm going to have you break the tie for us. Was this a win-win trade?
I think it was, because you have to look at the circumstances. It's not even a matter of are the Falcons ready to win this year. It's just a matter of where they are. They had no cap space. They need cap space. They have Calvin Ridley. They were about to draft Kyle Pitts. They feel like they can put together a good offense, and that Julio Jones is a contract that they can't afford to carry anymore. He's 32 years old. He's older than DeAndre Hopkins, and he's older than